She held her protruding stomach protectively and stared out the window. Thick fog settled over the frozen snow. I climbed the ladder to place the star on top of the tree. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. "What's the alternative? It might make it worse." We skipped decorations last year, hoping to dupe him into believing Christmas had not arrived. But our attempts at deception were quickly undone by our neighbors. Their lights and multitudes of glowing wired deers, and an inflatable giant nutcracker peeking from the side of the house across the street. Oh, how he had raged that snowy night. We had to flee the house together, burning through money we didn't have on an expensive vacation we didn't want. But we were younger then, and most importantly, not on the brink of bringing our child, a girl, into the world. "We need to talk about Kevin," Ava insisted. "Why?" I snapped. "What good will it do?" Ava continued staring out at the treacherous sheets of frozen terrain. Just getting the car out of the driveway, hell, getting to the driveway, might be impossible for Ava. We can't keep living like this, Brad. I climbed down the ladder and narrowly avoided a glass ornament perfectly placed to explode under my foot. Can't afford to move. You know that. And we'll never find a house like this for the price we got it for. She sighed. And we won't be able to sell it. Don't, I warned her. Never talk about selling. You know that, too. What's up with you tonight? Forks of lightning lit up the sky on the horizon. The unusual weather, not Christmassy at all, might irk Kevin. Hence the decision to bust out the decorations a little earlier than usual. 12:01. The wrong side of midnight, December 1st. "Come on," I said. "Help me with the lights." She nodded and moved, but not without clear frustration. Kevin loves Christmas trees. He loves lights. Can't upset precious Kevin. God. She wrung her hands and expressed disgust for our seemingly endless predicament. He's such a disease. Ava started crying. I dropped the string lights and rushed to embrace her, resisting the urge to admonish her obviously ill-advised statement regarding our problematic host. "Shh, shh," I cooed. "There now. It's gonna be okay." I searched in vain for words of comfort, and inevitably selected an old phrase that I should have known would infuriate her. "It's only 1 month of the year." Ava shoved me away. "God damn it, Brad. 1 month? Do you hear yourself? 1 month of watching our every step. No sleep. Pretending he's alive." Unfortunately, these were incredibly dangerous words to say, even uttered quietly. Kevin McCallister was dead. I don't know if he knew it or not, but our previous attempts to inform him of the fact, with the hope that he'd move on, had gone poorly. Every element of the home became a danger. We spent the night in the downstairs bathroom, apologizing beneath the door for hours. Only the rising sun changed his temperament, or drove him to whatever rest a ghost can have. I pointed to the window. "Can't leave tonight. Where would we go that we can afford, anyway?" I waved to the tree and the hallmark spread of Christmas adornments, purposely left, I'm sure, in the attic of the sprawling manor home. "Shh," Ava cautioned me. "What?" "Shh, goddammit. I heard..." She couldn't stomach acknowledging it. Him, anymore. "Go to hell, you little..." I covered her mouth. "Are you trying to get us killed?" My eyes darted involuntarily to her stomach. Her mouth fell open, and I thought for certain I'd gone too far. "Do you think that I Hungry for more? The words, as always, came on an invisible wind that reminded me of an echo. Perhaps that's where his words were drawn. The past. To be a little boy, stuck in a traumatic home invasion forever, seemed like a particularly dreadful circle of hell. We learned the story, unfortunately, from the source, whispered on the conjured winds by the boy himself. Kevin had been left alone over the holidays by his extremely wealthy but negligent parents. Burglars seized upon the opportunity and intended to rob their home, our home, even though the boy would be there. Justifiably, Kevin defended himself with a series of significantly and disturbingly violent booby traps that included blowtorches, staple guns, and a tripwire. No media covered it. How could they? He didn't tell a soul. Not even his parents or family. No. We discovered the extent of horrors all through trial and near-fatal error. The thieves in question did survive, apparently, though I'm not sure how. And Kevin? That was less clear. In bits and pieces, he conveyed a story about the following Christmas, and being accidentally abandoned again. This time, however, his family had flown to Florida, and he mistakenly made his way to New York. The story got less and less plausible as he told it. Fate apparently saw fit to reconnect him with the same burglars as before. They'd escaped from jail, the ghost whispered. Kevin found an uncle's house, but it was empty for renovations, which made it the perfect location for a repeat of last year's home defense strategy. I refrained from telling him that sounded too unlikely to be true. What actually happened? I'm not sure. I couldn't ask him directly, not without questioning the wild story about New York. I didn't really know how to talk to him anyway. He seemed to hear us, sure, but not really listen. Only words that touched him emotionally, things that angered him for the most part, got through. The truth? I thought he died here. Maybe his victory over the burglars wasn't as absolute as he suggested. Perhaps he'd been injured. Or maybe the whole story he told, of traps and weaponized paint cans, had been contrived by a scared little boy. The only real proof of misdeeds or tragedy came from the extremely low price of the house, and the overly nervous real estate agent rushing us through a tour. Of course, we bought it. What fool wouldn't? A huge place. Excellent condition. Detached double garage. Fully furnished with the best the 1990s could offer. No young couple could hope to do better in 2020. We moved in fast. But then the first incident occurred. I slipped on a plethora of micro machines, scattered across the floor in the front hall. If you don't know what a micro machine is, you are forgiven. They were a fad toy from 1990. Imagine dinky cars, but smaller. Much, much smaller. I'd woken up and trudged down to make some coffee when my heel shot out from under my body. Momentum pulled the rest of me, and the back of my head struck the bottom step. I lost consciousness. Ava found me a while after, and I told her about the little cars. I must have seen them before I blacked out. They were gone when Ava roused me, and that was justification enough to believe I'd imagined the whole thing. I'd simply fallen down. There were no little cars. But his whisper in the night, at my bedside, objected to the convenient lie I'd contrived. Aunt Leslie stepped on one and almost broke her neck. The chuckle that followed was so quiet and disturbing, I began to shiver. Ava thought I needed a cuddle. I did. But how to explain to my wife that I thought I might be losing my mind? I wouldn't exactly say her corroborating experience the following day was fortunate. Her first step down into the basement with a load of laundry landed in a sticky tar substance. She turned on the light and saw an upturned nail, nasty side up, through a shingle placed perfectly where her next footfall would arrive. Ava dropped the basket and fled upstairs to tell me. When we returned, no evidence of the tar remained. "It was right here," she claimed. Her shoulders shook. I did my best to hold her close and steady. The basement rested in impenetrable darkness. "After my experience, I obviously believe you saw something. Pretty dark. I saw it." Her eyes did a double take of the steps, and then rose to the switch on the wall. "I turned on the lights. The lights were on when I left, Brad." She clutched at my face until I looked at her, and away from the depths of that basement. Before we could exchange assurances, however, a god-awful sound rose from below. A kind of dull roar. The inhalation of some beast neither of us could identify. And then it ended abruptly with a metallic clank. "What the hell was that?" I asked Ava. She didn't answer. She turned the light on, again, and proceeded down the steps, pulling me along by the forearm. I did not want to go. The real estate agent had shown us the basement, of course, but we'd already decided to buy long before that moment. I remembered all the clutter: an old sewing machine, a few mannequins, and some plastic Halloween decorations neatly organized on a shelf. I had not inspected the furnace. "God," Ava said. I had no words at all. The furnace looked like a child's nightmare. A steel octopus stretching appendages through the ceiling, and a flat steel grate for its beak. Within its mouth glowed a heating element resembling coal, but an imitation of some kind I didn't understand. Even after researching different furnace types, the best explanation I could find was that it had been a gravity coal furnace. I won't bother with poorly explaining what that is. Some, especially in older homes, had been modified to some degree. But, for the life of me, I don't know what the McCallisters or their predecessors had done here. We waited a while to see if it would activate again. It did not. I don't know if it actually ever did. Apparently that's not a real thing. I don't know what we heard, and our ghost never spoke about it. In a daze, we wandered back to our bedroom, instinctively seeking distance from the unpleasant basement. We needed to think. It couldn't be real. There had to be a scientific explanation. I called the gas company. After a few automated menus to navigate, an unpleasant man answered. "What's the address?" I gave it to him. He sighed. "Little trout sniffer," he mumbled. "What?" "It's not a gas leak." He hung up. I stared at my phone. "Well, are they coming?" Ava asked. I shook my head. He said it wasn't a gas leak. Called me a trout sniffer? I think. Trout sniffer? What's that? No idea. I'll call him back. This time, I went through the menu to billing and immediately asked for a manager. I explained the previous interaction. The guy said it wasn't a gas leak straight away and hung up. How could he possibly know that without coming by? The manager exhaled cigarette smoke, I think. "This the McCallister house?" Was, I emphasized. "Right. Listen, the guy that hung up, he used to live there." "He's a McCallister." Does he know what happened here? The manager inhaled, held his smoke, and exhaled slowly. A car driving by on his end blared a horn.
He's never said a word about it. But he's right about the gas leak. There isn't one. You're not the first couple to move into the McCallister house.
We're not?
Nope, not by a long shot. And we've been out there every year since it's been sold. There's never a leak. Buzz checked it out himself since he used to live there.
Buzz?
McCallister.
The manager clarified. Do you know why I'm calling today? This time he inhaled and spoke with his lungs full.
Of course. To see if there's a gas leak.
Which there isn't, I supplied. He finally released his smoke.
That's right.
I squeezed the bridge of my nose and sighed. Do you know anything about my house? What's he saying? Ava whispered. I waved her off. Hello?
I said, I wouldn't want to live somewhere where people always call about gas leaks that aren't there.
The scratch of a lighter said he was a chain smoker. It annoyed me. Why is that? I asked sarcastically. He didn't answer, so I filled in the blank. You know we're seeing weird shit, don't you? Admit it.
I only know there isn't a gas leak in that house, sir.
More words spoken through a veil of smoke.
I'm sorry, but if there's nothing else...
Trout sniffer! I bellowed into the phone before hanging up. A second later, and there was a terrific crack, and an impact somewhere down the hall. Ava and I clung together. What was that? She trembled. We both did. Well, I said, it isn't a gas leak. I started to move toward the threshold of our bedroom, where an impossible wind, cold as winter, blew in our faces, and we both heard his voice for the first time together. Buzz, I'm going through private stuff. Come out. Ava let out a strangled gasp as tears filled up her golden hazel eyes. The sight pissed me off. Nobody, nothing, had the right to terrify my wife. I would burn down the world to see her happy. That's not a healthy outlook, I know, but it's true nonetheless. Stay here, I told her. Brad, don't go. I'm just going to look, I assured her. I'll be right back. Be careful. Uh-huh. The hallway appeared as delightedly dated as before. A mixture of scented candles and aftershave wafted through the air. Inside the spare bedroom, the shelving on the wall lay in a broken pile. I didn't recall there being any such shelves to begin with, but an overturned aquarium that I knew hadn't been there when we first saw the house looked more concerning. The carpet was dry. Fish hadn't been kept here. Something else, then. The unnatural, frigid wind came again, and with it, more mysterious utterings. I'm living alone. I'm living alone. It came from the hallway. I left the room and saw Ava clinging to the edge of our dresser. She pointed to the end of the hall, and there, the attic door swung open on a pitch-black stairwell. I took a deep breath and moved to accept the ominous invitation to follow. Brad, Ava warned. Don't. She shook her head back and forth. It's okay, I lied. Those steps toward the attic stairs and then up them were some of the hardest I ever took. Like every other place, I'd been there before, but blinded by the promise of such an amazing and affordable home. An invisible hand turned on the light, revealing boxes of Christmas lights and decorations. When I first saw them, during the real estate tour, I thought, awesome, I don't even have to buy decorations. I remember quite a few childhood years of sparse lights on a dying tree in my front yard. My parents did their best, but it looked sad, even to a kid. My own kid would never have to deal with that. The idea made me feel guilty. I should appreciate and honor the sacrifices of my parents. They did their best, and I'd gotten lucky. The same guilt accompanied the second viewing of these excessive decorations. I'd been happy in the small house my parents could afford. There had been love. Could I equal the resolve of my father? Would my wife and I be able to fill so many rooms with care and affection? In that moment, the extra space seemed entirely reserved for shoving away crap no one needed. A family could drift apart to comfortable, lonely corners and disappear into their own singular lives. My fear turned to mild despair. I investigated the attic because the words, "I'm living alone," had drawn me here as much as the open doorway seemed like an invitation. But I found no sign of the thing itself. Only boxes and a half-extended, dusty couch bed. "Look," I said, "I don't know what you want. Sorry." The wind returned. I swore it moved my hair. "I made my family disappear." Despair gave way to fear again, and I raised my hands, trying to demonstrate, I don't know, a helplessness? I had no way of harming it. "I'm sorry?" "I made my family disappear," it said again, but the tone had shifted entirely. The first utterance of the phrase had been apprehensive, but the second sounded satisfied, pleased even. Sudden laughter, harsh and grating, exploded in my ears, and then the rapid blast of a machine gun. I fell backwards onto the floor and flailed like a turtle until I could roll over and scramble toward the stairs. A tarantula spider reared up on the floor, inches from my face, and revealed its substantial fangs. I've never shot up to my feet so fast. I ran. I nearly fell down the steps. When I reached the bottom, I made the mistake of looking back. I didn't see the tripwire in the hallway, and came down hard, chin first, teeth clicking painfully. Ava came closer with the small lamp of her nightstand, cord wrapped around her hand. "Ava? Brad? Don't move." She stalked me like a hunter. "What are you doing?" She raised the light above her head. "Don't move," she insisted. "Ava? Don't move." The lamp came crashing down against my ribcage, driving the air from my lungs. I gasped and spluttered on the carpet. "Did I get it? Did I get it?" Ava searched for something small, and I finally understood what. "Spider?" I wheezed. "It's just a spider." It was huge. The hateful laughter came from the attic again, along with the sounds of a machine gun. We winced and covered our heads, only to realize they couldn't be real. It sounded like someone had switched on a TV. Nevertheless, we had to leave. What choice did we have? Ava helped me up. I leaned into her as my head spun. "Come on," she urged. "Hurry!" The sinister wind turned absolutely frigid. The ghost's voice harassed us as we descended the stairs to the front hall. "Hungry for more? Down here, you big horse's ass. Aren't you too old to be afraid?" A paint can tied to a rope grazed the top of Ava's head. It did no real damage, but she lost her balance and pulled me down the last few steps, right into a fresh batch of micro machines. Half crouched as we were, our feet slid and we came to rest on our hands and knees, and ass in my case, respectively. We looked up just in time to see another paint can launch off the banister. This time, the other end had not been tied. It landed and sloshed between us and the micro machines. We crawled to the front door. It took a second to understand the searing pain flaring in the palm of my hand. "Ow!" I yelped, retracting and cradling the injured skin in one swift motion. What? What?" Ava shrieked, trying to look at me and everywhere else at once. "The doorknob!" I shouted, and panicked as she reached for it. "No, it's hot." I showed her my branded hand. "How do we get out? The back door? The basement?" I shook my head. "There'll be more awful things. More traps." I took my gloves from the coat hanging from the rack. They were leather, or leather-like enough to endure the heated knob for the time required to quickly open the door and flee into the night. "Go, go, go," I said as I threw the singed glove onto the snow. Ava twisted and fell on the porch. I looked closely at the concrete. Everything had been coated in ice. I sat down and slid on my butt. Ava did the same onto the front walkway, which fortunately remained salted. We rushed to the car and sped off into the night. Ava drove. We didn't speak for a long time. I used snow to cool the throbbing burn. We pulled into a mostly empty Walmart parking lot and just tried to breathe. "I'm booking us a hotel." Ava whipped out her phone. "Okay." I opened the passenger door and got more snow from a nearby pile. When I returned, I put on my seatbelt and Ava started driving. It took an hour to get to the hotel, which turned out to be a swanky resort and spa. We couldn't afford it, but I was too tired to argue. Checking in without luggage raised the eyebrows of the smug concierge, a man named Hector, according to his name tag. Even though we had nothing to bring up to the room, a bellboy, or whatever they're called nowadays, escorted us up the elevator to an elegant and cozy bedroom with its own gas fireplace. Our escort hung inside the room, clearly waiting for a tip. "That'll be all," Ava snapped. The man flinched and practically leapt into the hallway. She shut the door. "I'm going to take a shower." "Okay." Off she went, and I heard the water turn on. I examined my burn. It looked raw, ugly, and likely to infect. I didn't think I could sleep. Ice wouldn't be enough either. I went downstairs, looking for a gift shop and Advil, but it was late, long past closing. The restaurant and bar, however, remained open. They'd have painkillers too, the best kind. A maitre d' intercepted the disheveled invader, me, and swiftly brought me to a corner seat at the bar. I hadn't even told him what I wanted. It's like he knew who I was, like he'd been informed, and hadn't been shocked at all to see me. Sure, he'd accurately guessed that I wanted alcohol, but he could have at least asked. The bartender set a glass down and poured some whiskey. I reached for my wallet, and the man's eyes widened in shock. "Charged to your room, sir." "But how do you know which—" They knew. I'd never been somewhere so fancy. I'd find out how much fancy cost later. The whiskey was the best I ever had. After a second one, the pain in my hand, the aches I'd forgotten about in the rest of my body, departed with promises to return, and then some by morning. I thought about the house, the ordeal. I played it over and over, until I became lost in a narrative that simply couldn't exist the way I remembered. Again, I questioned my sanity. And then the maitre d' returned with Ava, who looked messy too, but clean at least. She sat down and received her whiskey, which she drank in a single gulp. The bartender expressed disgust. "Move along, buddy," I told him. "I don't pay you for your snobby face." He wisely turned his back and went to the opposite end of the bar. Ava let out a hot breath, enjoying the burn of quality liquor. Damn, Maitre d' didn't say a word. She shook her head. "Just brought me right to you. That's good hooch." She slapped her hand on the bar. "Another for me and my boy," she hollered at the bartender. So late at night, there were only a few other couples having dessert and a nightcap, but they were all dressed like rich people and sneered at the dark corner we'd been allowed to occupy. The bartender reluctantly poured us each another drink. Ava snatched the bottle from his hand. "Madam," he objected, "that bottle is $600. She handed it right back to him and tried to return her glass. "I'm sure you could pour it back in with a funnel or something." "Humph," he declared, like the snooty piss bag you're imagining, before returning to the furthest geographic location within the confines of his station. "Shit," Ava said. "Cheers, at least." We clinked glasses, and sipped instead of gulping. "You could have told me you were coming down," she said. "I didn't know I was." I showed her my hand. "I was looking for painkillers." "Slowly, dear. We can't afford the good painkillers." I shrugged. "Probably too late. This is my third? So, fourth? Fifth?" I could only shrug again. I don't know. We drank quietly for a minute. What else could we do? "Can't stay here too long, Brad." "I know. What are we gonna do?" "I don't..." A realization interrupted my own response. He wanted me to go into the attic. Why? Why the attic? Ava didn't answer. She knew me well. I had to talk things through, often out loud, because I lacked the inner voice to think quietly like smart people. There were Christmas decorations up there. Lots of them. Too many, really. Even for a house the size of, well, our house. "You think," Ava said slowly, "that he wants us to decorate?" It sounded stupid. I don't know. But I don't have any better ideas. If it wants us to leave, I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. I dismounted the stool and immediately experienced the saying, "You're only drunk when you stand up." "Slow down," Ava said. "We're not going back there tonight. Let's think about it, okay?" We drank some more instead, and passed out in a bed that was, thankfully, in the room we bought for the night. The next morning, the bill came underneath the door. We hadn't asked for it. I didn't even think they printed bills anymore. I don't think we're welcome here," I said. Ava snatched the bill. "We can't afford to anyway." She waved the paper at me. "That's more than a mortgage payment." "Because of the whiskey?" "Not," she emphasized. "Including the whiskey. Or a tip." "Oh, they're not getting a tip." Since the bill had already been paid with our credit card, and checkout could be completed electronically, we only had to endure the disgustingly smug smile of the concierge. "Do bundle up," he called after us. "It's awfully cold outside." His grin stretched to Grinch-like proportions. "Well, that's a 1-star review from us," I tried to joke with Ava, but she didn't laugh. Neither did I. We were hungover and tired, and not at all ready to go back home. Hector hadn't been lying about the weather. It was freezing, and neither of us had arrived with a coat. We pulled into the driveway of our home and continued to shiver. Only then did I realize neither of us had turned on the heat. I hit the maximum button and set the heated seats to their highest level. In no time, the interior of the car became comfortable. "We should go," Ava said. "Do you have a plan?" I asked. I noticed the narrow stump where a small pine tree had been yesterday. Him, had come outside the house. The relative feeling of safety within the car disappeared. He could be in the back seat right now. "We'll talk to it. To him," Ava corrected. "We should make every effort to be polite, respectful." I nodded, hardly understanding, still thinking about where he could appear and what he could do. "Let's go." Reluctantly, slowly, we left the car and approached the front door. I tapped it lightly with my burnt hand. The knob felt cool, normal. Yet, I did not open it. "Should we knock?" Ava scowled. "On her own door?" I shrugged. "I don't know. I've never tried to appease a malignant spirit before, okay?" "Shh," she hissed. Is it a he? I might hear you." "Okay," I snapped back. I turned the knob and pushed the door in gently. It swung quietly on the blessedly empty front hall. A click came from the living room, and music. A sad, discordant trumpet, I think.
"Who is it?"
asked an old man from the TV above the fireplace. Brad?" I answered. "And his wife, Ava."
"I'm gonna give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my property before I pump your guts full of lead."
"All right. I'm sorry. We're going." Both Ava and I raised our hands. I hadn't forgotten the entity's use of the movie. The persistent pain in my hand, however, said to take its threat seriously. Wait, hold on," Ava said with surprising calm. "You wanted Brad to find the Christmas decorations?"
"That a fact,"
the old man on the TV answered. After a deep breath, and to my shock, Ava moved slowly to the living room. I shook my head and begged her to stop. "Do you like Christmas? Do you want us to decorate?" The television switched off.
"Yes,"
said a little boy's voice. He seemed to be sitting nearby on the stairs. The weird noise that followed took me a moment to place. A tape being rewound. All the words spoken backwards and fast. Another click and...
"Yes,"
the boy, or his ghostly voice recorder, repeated. "You'll let us decorate?" I asked.
"Yes."
The recorder backed up.
"Yes."
I wondered what kind of person this kid had been in life. Certainly not your typical boy. We retrieved box after box after box. Lights, decorations, new and old, plastic and metal. The small tree severed from the front lawn appeared next to the fireplace. If he could do that, why did he need us to decorate at all? I'm sure Ava had the same thought, but neither of us felt comfortable questioning the ghost. Instead, we continued spreading holiday bullcrap in every direction. There were boxes left and huge ornaments to go outside, but the day had been spent and we were exhausted. "Is this all right for today?" Ava asked. We waited, but got no immediate response. I thought we were done until a single micro machine rolled into the dining room, where we changed out the tablecloth for a more festive one. "I think that's a no," I told Ava. I forced a smile. I couldn't outright say, "This is nuts," to her. so I tried to express it instead. She sighed. There's another box in the hall. I went to get it and found a bundle of string lights. Guess these go on the railing? The front door blew open to admit the frigid night. These were, apparently, outdoor lights. I'm sure my whole body sagged as I moved to obey. I took the box with me and discovered multiple strings, some long and many short. With no idea how to arrange them, I did my best. I began with the smallest, and thought it'd be fun to give the metal statue near the porch a white light boa. They were torn away the second I finished, and tossed into the snow. It was then that I understood that mere decorating wasn't good enough. Each thing had to be placed just so. I went back inside to Ava. We should go. There's no way to finish. What? She carried 2 wreaths. We're so close. No, we're not. Look. I took her into the living room. Sure enough, all the work we'd put into the tree had been undone. Ornaments had been scattered across the floor. Kevin, she shrilled. By then, it had whispered his name to her, which made me feel uneasy. Had he been communicating with her this whole time? We're trying to help, but we can't keep this up all night. After yesterday, we need rest. We want to decorate, okay? So tell us what to do. She dashed one wreath down onto the hardwood, and then the next. Come on, Brad. It's bedtime. I held her shoulders and made her duck on our way up the stairs. No swinging paint cans were tossed, however. We made it to our bedroom and closed the door. It felt like we were being watched. Kevin, I said, and with great apprehension, please give us some privacy. The impossible wind erupted and hissed.
Here's a voltage adapter.
The bedroom door swung open and slammed shut a moment later. I breathed a sigh of relief. I think we're alone now? I don't have the energy to change, Ava said, already stretching out on the bed. I dropped beside her and sleep came for us both. It wasn't restful, though. Kevin, perhaps encouraged by the quiet in our room or the evenness of our breathing, Ava said I regularly snored, entered and imparted his decoration requirements. I remember awakening several times that night. I remember his voice. Most importantly, we knew exactly what he wanted us to do with the decorations. The next day, we forgot about work entirely, our remote jobs, and set about making the house entirely and perfectly Christmassy, according to the wishes of Kevin McCallister. It took all day and into the evening. We didn't stop to eat or use the bathroom. But, in the end at least, a sense of peace rested upon the atmosphere of our home. Ava actually smiled. We ordered a pizza. Just cheese. Extra cheese. The way he liked it. Kevin turned on the movie he'd been using to communicate with us. Angels with Filthy Souls. It was pretty violent. Pure rubbish. Not suitable for kids. He left us alone in our bedroom. Of that, I'm sure. And we showered and slept peacefully for the first time in our home. That first December passed, and we had a good Christmas. There aren't usually too many presents when you're a couple without kids. Ava and I exchanged the same kind of chocolates and the same kind of wine. The only difference was a gift we purchased for Kevin. An elf on the shelf. She explained the somewhat recent tradition. So, he flies every night to the North Pole and... The plastic and felt product levitated into the air before its chest erupted with the polyfiber stuffing inside. Kevin took the toy and tossed it into the fire. we watched it burn. "Sorry," Ava said. And so it went. As I've said before, through trial and error, we learned how to make Christmas according to the temperamental ghost. By the end of each December and the New Year, we would be close to breaking. Adrenaline and youth carried us through the first years. But a lack of proper sleep for an entire month, constant days of holiday labor to appease him, and, of all things, trying to manage work at the same time, wore us down. It can be said that we came to hate the Christmas season. Every other month was normal, good. Kevin disappeared from the house, or at least kept to himself, perhaps in the attic. Our breaking point arrived prior to the arrival of our firstborn, which is where I chose to begin the account of our ordeal, for better or worse. Ava held her stomach. Lightning broke the sky. Lightning over frozen snow. Another peal lit up the interior of the living room. The crack of thunder an immediate cannon blast to our ears. A spiraling wind from the fireplace spoke.
"You can't mess with kids on Christmas."
"Kevin," I said, trying to remain calm. "Can't help the weather." I heard the front door open with a bang. "You want us to leave?" Ava asked. "We can't," I interrupted. "The roads are frozen solid. The wind, ow!" I'd taken a small step onto a sharp glass ornament that hadn't been there a second before. I hopped around on one foot. Fine, we're leaving. We're going." "We are?" Ava's face said she didn't like the idea. I went to her and gently took her elbow and touched the small of her back. We'd learned to communicate without speaking over the years in the McCallister house. The escort pose, we'd silently decided, meant the other should follow and an explanation would come later. We put on our coats and boots. I took Ava to the car and handed her the keys. "What are you doing?" "You said it yourself. You can't keep living like this." "Brad, it ends tonight." "I'll come with you," she tried. I shook my head. "You know that's a bad idea. The baby." "You," she countered. "What about you?" "Keep the car running," I told her. "If I have to, I'll retreat. I'll go see Hector." She smirked. We embraced, and it felt good to do so again. The stress of December over the years had weakened our connection, and I hadn't noticed. To do something, finally something, against our oppressor provided some relief, even if I had no idea exactly what to do or how to do it. Plus, the whole likelihood of dying horribly at the hands of a vengeful ghost scared the shit out of me. When I turned around to face the house, however, a new shadow swelled into existence in the driveway. A cube at first, and then a rectangular prism that became a blue van. Rust ate at the corners of the vehicle and its shadows. Through the darkened windshield, two silhouettes sat and peered out with eyes that glowed. As if rehearsed, they each stuck a hand out of their respective windows to drop objects. From the passenger seat came a crowbar. From the driver's seat, a handgun fell. A Smith & Wesson .38 Special. I didn't understand, and the figures inside the car didn't explain, before their rusted van became absorbed again in the darkness surrounding them. Ava lowered the window. "Take that stuff. How's a crowbar and a gun gonna work against a ghost?" The look I got from my wife asked me to please catch up. "Did you see what I did? The van and... they were the robbers, dummy." "Oh, but... they want revenge." I nodded. Right. Ghost weapons for a ghost murder. Ava shook her head and raised the window. So, Kevin had lied about the burglars living through the ordeal he put them through. That made much more sense. We barely survived a fraction of the trauma inside the McCallister home. With the crowbar and the gun, I nearly mounted the front steps before checking for ice. The slippery lair had been expertly applied to be invisible. Wisely, I thought, I went around to the back door. I had keys to the house, but they were on the fob I'd left with Ava. The other set I'd left inside. I was about to jam the crowbar into the door when a cold hand fell upon my shoulder. A squat, round man cast in shadowy blue guided me a step back and shook his head just as the tip of a BB gun stealthily extended from the dog door. It fired once, harmlessly, into a snowbank. He made a kicking motion toward the door. I understood and did the same, severing a thin rope from a rigged-up blowtorch set to trigger and blast my head. "I'm in the house," I shouted, my anger rising. That could have been Ava entering and being burned. "You little piece of shit." The back of my collar held me back before I walked through the open, swinging door from the kitchen to the dining room. I looked back to see the bluish man again. I could see him more clearly. Sort of. His eyes glowed like a cat's, and the top of his hat had been ravaged by fire. He pointed me to a clear plastic wrap covered in glue, and then a tripwire set to start a fan that would cover me in feathers. The feather trap might have been the least harmful of them all, and it revealed another facet to Kevin's personality. He wasn't just defending himself. He wanted to take away the burglars' pride and humiliate them. When I'd safely bypassed these contraptions and made it to the front hall, a taller, scruffier man cast in a gray aura waited. His feet were bare, and severely injured by a puncture wound and broken glass. The mark of a clothes iron imprinted his ghastly skin. Silently, he pointed the way upstairs and covered his head. I know about those ones. He gestured to the floor, which remained clear for the moment. That too. Moving my feet in a sweeping motion, I cleared the micro machines as they materialized from the shadows. The ghost stayed close behind as I mounted the steps. The first paint can flew by. I stayed close to the wall and waited for the second, while the weighted objects passed through the ethereal beings of the men. I began to move again, but both of them held me tight across the chest. I couldn't move. Hey, what's the big... A lead pipe, tied at both ends, fell from the second floor, and swung back and forth. The weight of the object would have killed anyone at that velocity. "You saved my life," I told them. "Thank you." They insisted I go on with more pointing. I hefted the crowbar and laid the barrel of the gun across it. The tripwire was easily bypassed, and the spider, too. When I got to the attic, I saw a rope had been tied to a beam. It had been extended to a treehouse that currently did not exist in the world of the living. A boy, muted blue and gray and with the same dead eyes as my burglar guardians, stood in the treehouse. "Come on," he said, though his lips did not move. "He's trying to get me to go back down through the house," I thought out loud. But when I reached for the rope, the thin ghost held it. What? Am I wrong? He pointed back the way I'd come. For real? Both nodded in unison. When I looked back at the treehouse, Kevin had gone. Together, the three of us descended, and instead of going to the backyard, they guided me to the front door of my neighbor's house, which opened on its own. The dark interior and absence of cars should have been the evidence I needed to conclude nobody was home. but it wasn't. I knew they weren't home. I knew this wasn't the house they actually lived in. I don't know how I knew. I just did. When we entered the kitchen, Kevin hung by his shirt from a hook on the door. He said nothing. He didn't look afraid. The short burglar gently lifted my wrist to level the firearm at the boy. I had no doubt this weapon would somehow harm the ghost. Yet, with him in front of me, I found the anger and the rage over what he'd done to Ava and I fading. Pity replaced the feeling. Pity for the strange boy hanging from a door. The burglars materialized again in front of me and faced Kevin. They spoke, but no voice could be heard. The short one grabbed one of Kevin's fingers and brought the digit towards his open mouth. He was gonna bite it off. And that's when another figure appeared. An old and scary-looking man with a shovel. He bashed each crook in the back of the head. They dropped and were clearly dead. Too much blood rushed from the gashes in the back of their skulls. The old man helped Kevin off the hook. The scene changed again. A kitchen still, but in a different house. Kevin was older. The scary man, too. Much of his vitality had departed, leaving him bent and decrepit. "I can't live like this," Kevin said. "You have been," the old man croaked. "The guilt is eating me up inside. They were bad men. They were gonna kill you. Only because of what I put them through. I could have called the police at any time. Why didn't I?" Tears fell down Kevin's face. "You were a child." "That's not an excuse." The old man stood up. "If you say something, you'll go to jail. Your life will be over." "The bodies are in your basement, Shovel Slayer," Kevin snapped. The old man winced at the mention of this name. "None of it's true." "I used to think so too. You had me convinced. But looking back now..." Kevin shook his head. "You killed those men with one shot. Like you'd done it 100 times before. You dug the graves fast. Easy. I remember you smiled." He buried his head in his hands and quietly wept. The old man hobbled to his broom closet, which he opened, revealing a gardening spade. This he selected quietly and calmly, and approached the much younger man with a clear, malicious intention. The old man raised the shovel. "No one will keep me from seeing my granddaughter." Kevin sighed, seemingly aware of what was about to happen. "No!" I cried, firing the .38 special. The old man groaned before touching the sudden bullet hole in his chest. Kevin spun around, astonished by the turn of events. The scene turned dark, and I lost my sense of space and time until a light appeared in the distance. Kevin stood in the living room. I went to him and said, I didn't really stop that from happening, did I?" Kevin shook his head slowly. Curiously, he smiled. "But you tried. You're the first." "You mean..." He nodded. Many people had lived in our house since the McCallisters. All of them had, in some way or fashion, taken the opportunity to kill their tormentor. "Except you," he said as he put his hands into his pockets and looked away. "My parents, my family, didn't think much of me. They didn't think much about me. Maybe it wasn't their fault. You had a big family. I'm sorry," I said. From his pocket, he took a pair of turtle dove ornaments and handed one to me. "You have one? I have one." I understood. You're going to go now, aren't you? I won't forget you. Trust me. I looked at the turtle dove. I'll remember you too. I promise. You're gonna be a good dad, Kevin said. He strolled out of the living room. I heard the front door open and softly close. Sunlight poured through the windows. Ava found me shortly after. We held each other tightly and wept. Not because it was over, but for the boy who'd been left behind, home alone. I knelt down to speak to my unborn child. Never home alone, I promised her. Not you. Not ever.
Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/JordanGroupHorror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow. And see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.